Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2018 and a brand new experiment where we're going to take a look at what would happen if you created a 9-division European Super League. This is an enormous project where you have the top division here that you can see on the screen, and it goes all the way down through about 650 teams and 9 different divisions. A lot of those tiers in the pyramid are split into 3 leagues as well to try and fit as many European clubs into this structure as possible. So it's essentially like creating an entire brand new countries tier system from 1 all the way down to 9. It's a mammoth project. If you would like to download this, there is a link in the description to FM Scout. It's a simple case of downloading the file and then placing it in your editor data file in Football Manager 2018. So all the information is down there in the link below. But before we go ahead, do drop a like on the video if you're interested to see how this experiment pans out, and make sure to subscribe. There will be parts coming out every 2 days as we see which teams in Europe can dominate European football. And it will take a while because the leagues have not been placed perfectly. There's a balance between coefficient, reputation, and sort of trying to get a country spread in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this league does balance out, and maybe we can finally decide which team genuinely is the best team in Europe. So do hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with this. The way it's going to work to begin with is I'll show you through the league structures, which teams are where, and then we'll go forward just 1 year today so we can have a more detailed look at that very first European season. So starting here, you can see we've already got a very, very interesting first league with the likes of AC Milan, Arsenal, Monaco. Most importantly, you've got Barcelona, Real Madrid, United, Man City are in here, PSG are in here. All of the biggest teams in Europe are in this league. You've got some other ones like Lazio, Napoli, Marseille, Nice, Leipzig and Schalke, who are maybe not quite at the top there. Villarreal as well, perhaps, and Valencia. But they are in there because of their reputational position in the club coefficient, so they should be able to compete. But it will be interesting to see if they can, and who is actually going to come out on top in this league. Now it gets a little bit more interesting in terms of the structure when we drop down to the European Premier League, which is the second tier in this structure. You can see it here, and it is split, I think, across across 3 different leagues. So you can see here the European Premier League West has got a lot of the second tier teams, the likes of Bordeaux in here, Benfica are in here, FC Basel, Porto, PSV, some very good teams in here, Southampton, West Ham, who will be challenging to get into that European Super League next season. If we drop down to the Premier League Central, you can see again there are some reasonably okay teams in here. This isn't the strongest league in the world, but you do have the likes of Udinese and Wolfsburg in there. It's a 26-team league, this. In the Premier League East, again, a lot more of the second tier European teams. Obviously, East, Central and West refers to Europe itself, so you aren't likely to get any Premier League teams in the East section. They are more likely to be in the West section, and in the Central section you're going to get a lot more German, sort of French teams. So here you've got the likes of Turkish teams, Russian teams, Greek teams. And then if we drop down to the Europe Championship West, which is the third tier, you can see again in the West here you've got Palace, Bournemouth are in there. Rangers are in here, which would be interesting to see if they can climb up. Stoke are down there as well. I assume that means Celtic are in the higher tier than Rangers, but we'll have to see on that one. Hearts are in here. You've got a nice mix really, but I think this is going to be the more competitive side of the league structure. And then in the central, or actually this might be the more competitive side because it's got the German and Italian teams in it. But you can see teams like Genoa are in here, and Stuttgart down there, Werder Bremen could all do quite well. And in the Championship East, you've got a lot more kind of teams who are maybe not up to the same standard of the teams in the West and the Central League. So it'll be interesting to see how that balances out. But you can see there's quite a few promotion places on off here, or I don't know quite how these are working out actually. The league structure is not totally clear to me, so we'll find that out as we go forward. In Europe League 1, which is a bit further down, you can see the likes of some Championship teams coming in there. Newcastle are in there as well, so they've got a long way to go to reach the top. In the Central League, again, not too many teams that I recognise because you're starting to get into the second tier, or third tier in some cases. And here you've got the likes of Bursaspor in there who could do quite well. But this league will be interesting to take a look at in the future, because I think there's going to be a huge disparity between some of the big teams and smaller teams. As we drop down even further now to, I think, the 5th tier, you've got Leeds in here, Fulham in here, Hibs are in here, Rants are in here, some decent teams. The Central League starting to look a little bit shaky now, because we're getting into the 3rd and 4th tier of the Italian and German leagues, and the West League is completely unrecognisable to me, to be honest. Further down, you can see the likes of Motherwell in with Bristol City now. Groningen are in there as well, Le Havre. So that is still a competitive league. This one, not quite so much, and the East League just falling into absolutely nothingness at this point. Again, this league not looking that different to the one before it. So it's really the West League that we need to keep an eye on going forward. Because you can see we're all the way down to Europe League 5 now. And I think it goes down as far as Europe League 6. Which is a very, very bottom league. This one isn't split into 3 divisions. So I assume this is automatic promotion, and this is the playoffs. And that's the way this is working. So there will be a lot of promotion and relegation in this league, or a lot of promotion at least in this league. There are 60 teams in Europe League 6, which is quite funny really. But that's why there's 6 promotion places on offer. You got the likes of Blackburn in here, playing alongside Derry City and teams like that. This will be quite a fun one to keep an eye on, I think, just to see if there is a massive gap between the teams at the top and the bottom. Now, there has been nothing else changed about this database. It is completely pure in the sense that the teams are all still got the same finance and players and reputation. Nothing has been changed except for the league structure. There aren't any other leagues loaded because there's no point. You might see the likes of the Eredivisie or Austrian Premier Division, but they do not have any players in them. So we are purely starting from scratch across European football. But it'll be interesting to see how they do generally, and if one team is able to actually dominate European football. I'm going to assume as well that most of the international competitions, or at least the Club World Championship, is broken now and will not work. But we can always take a look and see if it is still working. But you can see at the top here, AC Milan, currently holding the only place that matters, top of the league. We're going to go forward 1 year in time now and see which team has managed to come up at the top in each division, and also which teams have been spending the most money to try and get ahead in this division. It's going to be quite an interesting experiment, so do hit that like button if you're looking forward to this. Make sure to download it using the link in the description, and do subscribe because the next part will be out in 2 days' time. So let's go forward and see who's won the Europe Super League. Well, we are now 1 year into the future, and we're going to start at that bottom league, Europe League 6, which is probably the most interesting place to start as well, because it's certainly an interesting league. You can see the teams in this league had to play 59 league matches, but there are no cup competitions in this experiment, so they are only playing in the league games. Now, if we start right at the bottom, the worst team in the entire Europe Super League is Cherkasy Dnipro, which is a Croatian team, pretty sure of that. All the teams have been relocated to Luxembourg just for the ease of building one coherent league, but they will still be based at their stadium in Croatia. I assume it's Kenitra. Is it Ukraine? Or is it Croatia? Ooh, it might be Ukraine, actually, thinking about it. There's quite a few Ukrainian players there and a Ukrainian manager, so it might be the Ukraine. That might be my mistake. But you see they've got 10,000 capacity. They're not a small team. But they have finished bottom of the entire pyramid structure. There is no relegation from this point because I think that'd be even harder to set up. But you can see just ahead of them with Derry City. Big gap, though. I mean, that's a 24-point gap at the bottom of the league there. Cork City did reasonably well, finish above Rapid Bucharest. Hapoel Tel Aviv finishing in 40th place. Not a lot of difference here. A lot of teams level on points in the world's largest mid-table. But as we get up towards the top, some of these teams hitting 100 points, but across 59 games, that would be expected. Remember, if you were getting the average of 2 points a game, which would usually get you into the Champions League and the Premier League, then you'll need 120 points, which has been the case here, where right at the top, you can see Blackburn took it from Bolton, but they did it with just 5 goals in it. That was all that separated them. 5 defeats across 59 games, 36 wins. Gymnastic actually got more wins, but more defeats held them further back. You've got Cercle Bruges getting promoted, Lyonnaise, Blackpool, and then Academica must have missed out in the playoffs as Pro Vercelli, Portsmouth and Burton all got promoted up to the next division up. So if we pop up and have a look at the East League, you can see it was won up by Omonia by about 7 points there. Still a lot of defeats there. So I think that's a good sign that the league is well balanced if they're losing 8 matches and taking the title. And there's not actually that huge a difference at any point. There's no major drop off until you get to the bottom, and the bottom team is getting relegated by about 14 points. But overall, the league seems really well balanced, I have to say. But you can see here a lot of Turkish teams going through, a Greek team, I think Amanaya as well. If we look at the Central League and just go back to the previous season, you can see it was actually won by Empoli by 7 points. Again, well balanced in terms of points distribution. But the top teams here all going through. Further down, you can see Ventspils and Levadia getting relegated. Let me know if you see your team in here and if they're doing well, or if you think they're doing better than you thought. I know we do have a lot of European fans who might be able to keep an eye out for their local side. If we have a look at Europe League West, you can see that Brentford have won this. So the English team's doing very well. Sunderland finishing second in the league behind Brentford. Aves and Lugo doing well as well. Millwall getting promotion ahead of the likes of Birmingham and Barnsley. And further down, St Johnstone, Hamilton and Shamrock Rovers all getting relegated. So while the English teams are doing well, the rest of Britain are struggling to keep up with their European counterparts. But all of the English teams towards the top of that league. Spanish teams doing very well as well alongside them. Up to the Europe League 4, and you can see here in the East Division that there were 6 teams getting relegated from this league, and 4 of them got promoted, so quite a few teams still left in mid-table. I don't really recognise any of the teams in here, maybe Arsenal Kiev, but the teams at the top I certainly don't recognise, like Concordia, China, or is that just China? I wouldn't even know. So let me know if you do recognise any of those teams. In Europe League Central, you can see Foggia won this league, with Navarra getting promoted as well. Right down at the bottom, Domzale getting relegated. I assume there's some sort of playoff if they've been relegated ahead of this Swedish team. But the Swedish team is not doing too well in this division. And you can see there's always one team that seems to be about 10 points at foot at the bottom of the table. But otherwise, a nice sort of split of points across. And then in Europe League 4, Hull City winning by 12 points there. They did lose 7 games across 50 matches, but that's still a very good performance, with Tenerife, Granada going up, Sheffield Wednesday and Preston as well. Nottingham Forest down towards the bottom, Kilmarnock relegated, Dundalk also relegated. A couple of Dutch teams going down. Partick Thistle doing better than some of the Dutch teams, and I think they're Dutch Premier League teams as well, so that's reassuring to see that the Scottish division's holding up reasonably well. In Europe League 3, in the East section, you can see Panathinaikos, I think, have won the league there. 5 teams going up. Towards the bottom, a few Turkish teams struggling. Torpedo Moscow losing out there at the bottom by 20 points. Very much the whipping boys of that league. And in the Central League, we can see that Bochum winning this league. St. Pauli, the Italian team doing pretty... Or are they German, actually, St. Pauli? I can't remember. Venezia finishing in 3rd. Carpi, Bari. The Italian and German teams absolutely cleaning up in this league. And down towards the bottom, you can see the other smaller leagues really struggling and getting relegated. So we will see that balance, I think. If the big divisions, traditionally like Germany, France and England, doing very well. Now you can see here, Europe League West, Bristol City. Again, I think the English teams have won every single West division so far, which shows just the financial advantage they have over these other teams. Numancia, Gijon missing out, and they're decent teams in Spain. They are up in the top division, but they can't compete with the Championship clubs, although Sheffield United finishing further down. Motherwell doing quite well, but Dundee relegated at the bottom of the league alongside VVV Venlo and Sochaux as well. Le Havre going down. But there must be some sort of playoff system here across the divisions, which is why Le Havre have been relegated and not the other teams. In Europe League 2, getting close to the top now, you can see some of these more familiar Turkish teams like Alanyaspor doing very well, winning the title, but further down, some of the other ones just going straight down, 32 points, a bit closer at the bottom this time than it has been in other leagues. And if we take a look at the Central League, then you can see Sandhausen have won this league. Not a team that I recognise, and there have been teams in these divisions like Parma that I recognise an awful lot more, so interesting that they're doing well. Berlin Kopernik, or Berlin United, I think somebody said I should call them, who did very well in the last experiment, doing well here as well, getting promoted from Europe League 2 alongside Ingolstadt, two teams that did do well last time around. And then in the West Division, is it another English winner? It is. It's Leeds who've won it this time. 3 points ahead of Cardiff. Middlesbrough up there. Derby, Fulham, and then Firenze going up. Rants further down. AC Ajaccio all the way down. Hibernian near the bottom. Real Oviedo, who did well in the last experiment as well, managing to avoid relegation, but the Belgian teams going straight down. Now we're very close to the top here as we look at the East Division. And you can see it was won by Bursaspor, a team I pointed out earlier. Ufa up there, Gazepa, and Arsenal Tula doing reasonably well. Towards the bottom, Slavia Sofia going down. A few recognisable names in there, but not too many. I mean, this East Division, I think, is going to get... Any team that gets relegated out of this, I think, is going to slip down very, very quickly. Now, in the Central League, we can see Darmstadt winning this, 110 points. Spal in second, Fortuna Dusseldorf as well, Palermo going up. Recognisable names there, really. And then at the bottom, some teams that you don't recognise, usually the Swedish leagues or Norwegian or Austrian, those sort of areas. You will have to excuse my voice if it breaks a little bit. I am getting a bit of a cold, so it's making me sound a little bit like a teenage boy, but I'm trying to do my best to soldier on. Now in the West League, for once it wasn't won by an English team. Malaga have taken the Europa League West with Huddersfield in second, Wolves, Brighton, Newcastle and West Brom. Newcastle doing very poorly there not to win that league. They should be winning that. But they finished ahead of Levante, Metz, Villa struggling down there, and towards the bottom, FC Twente, Charleroi, Aberdeen and Waasland Beveren all getting relegated. A lot closer though at the bottom this time. Heerenveen, a team I remember being in the Europa League not too long ago, getting relegated. Strasbourg doing very well there, a French second tier side. Or they might have got promoted recently actually. Now we're into the second tier, the Europe Championship East. This should be a lot more competitive. And you can see at the top here, surprisingly, CSKA Sofia winning the league. I think they're a Bulgarian team, ahead of Trabzonspor, Partizan, CFR Cluj, Dinamo Moscow doing very poorly here. And Anzhi as well, also really struggling. A few surprises in this league, I have to say. I did not expect CSKA Sofia to be winning that league. That's a blast from the past. And further down, Beitar Jerusalem getting relegated, Hapoel Haifa as well. In the Central Division, you can see a lot of first division teams in here now, and it was won by Freiburg with 106 points, ahead of Sassuolo and Genoa. Augsburg, Chievo, Bologna doing well, and at the bottom there, some teams I don't really recognise. Again, those lower rated competitions struggling, with Slovan Liberec going down, and Lokomotiva, Gornik and Sigma Olomouc. But you've got Malmo, Brøndby struggling down towards the bottom. Crotone and Stuttgart, Hamburger, Hanover, the German and Italian teams absolutely cleaning up in the central section. In the west section, it is Watford who take it home by 11 points over Toulouse. Bournemouth, Swansea, Getafe and Palace doing reasonably well. And then further down, you got the likes of Genk, Roseburg, Maritimo, Grasshoppers and Hearts all getting relegated. Rangers managing to avoid relegation just about there. But you got Montpellier, Feyenoord doing reasonably well up the higher end of that table. Now there is actually another set of leagues which I completely forgot about. So we're still not at the Super League. But you see in the Premier League East, which actually is the one below the Super League. So there's still 3 leagues in this kind of tier, and then there is only 1 league and 1 tier above it, which is why there is only 1 promotion. But Besiktas beating Dynamo Kiev by 3 points to promotion to the European Super League. Kiev in second place, just ahead of Shakhtar Donetsk. Zenit, Spartak Moscow, Galatasaray all doing well. I'm not sure if that's a surprise, Besiktas winning that. They're a decent team, and the other teams in here are not actually that strong. I could see Besiktas getting relegated pretty much straight away next time. You can see at the bottom, some of the other teams like Red Star going straight down. Now, who got out of the Central League? Because there are some very good teams in here, like Fiorentina, like Toulouse, Udinese. But the winners were Borussia Mönchengladbach. That's come out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned. Torino also managing to get up, I assume, through a playoff across the other divisions. Wolfsburg in third, just missing out on the playoffs by 1 point. Hoffenheim further back from there. Eintracht Frankfurt, the German teams, cleaning up in this league, with the Italian teams like Udinese actually struggling. And then at the bottom, as always, some of the other central leagues getting relegated, like Austria Vienna, Wisla Krakow as well. But let's have a look at that Premier League West League, because there are some very big names in here. You've got Ajax, Benfica, Celtic, Everton, Porto, Leicester, the former Premier League champions in here. Southampton are in here. This is a very competitive league, and the real successor league really to the top tier. And if we have a look at who's won it, it's Athletic Bilbao who've won it by 1 point over Espanyol. Leicester 6 points behind, Southampton 6 points behind, and then a bit of a drop to Burnley, Celta Vigo, Porto really struggling to do well, and Everton as well struggling in 8th place. Benfica way back in 12th as well, and they're a consistent Champions League team who have failed to beat the likes of Burnley up the table. Celtic nearly getting relegated but finished above West Ham, who've gone down. Club Brugge have gone down. Anderlecht, Basel all getting relegated as well. But you can see Ajax, PSV and Celtic so close to the bottom. Braga as well. Big Champions League names nearly getting relegated to the 3rd tier. So that is a very interesting finish there. I can't believe Athletic Bilbao have won that league. That is very impressive. I know they're a good team, but that is very, very good stuff. And finally, we hit the Europe Super League, what we've all been waiting for. A very competitive league. You've got Real Madrid in here, Barcelona, Man United, Arsenal, Roma, Juventus, just every big team are in here. And the winners of the Europe Super League's inaugural season is Manchester United have won it. The English teams maintain their dominance, and across a league structure they've done extremely well here, with Barcelona in second, a good 9 points behind. Man City further adrift, 8 points behind Barcelona, and Real Madrid in fourth, 1 point behind Man City. So that's an interesting top four. Not entirely unexpected. I would expect to see those 4 teams right up there at the top. But it is interesting that Monaco have managed to pip Juventus to 8th place. Bayern Munich well back in 10th place, only 1 point ahead of Bayer Leverkusen, so probably a bit of a poor season for them. Spurs doing well in 12th, Liverpool in 14th, AC Milan down in 18th. Roma right down here must have survived through some sort of playoff to beat getting relegated, because Leipzig have gone down. Lazio, Schalke and Nice all relegated. Nice, as I said at the start, were always like to struggle. Only got 26 points, only got 6 wins. A very, very difficult time. But if we look at Manchester United and their senior squad schedule, then we can see in the previous season there is actually a Champions League going on, which is quite funny. It must be a different setup, because they've gone straight from the group stage here to a Champions League. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. I didn't realise there was a Champions League, but we will have a look in a minute. You can see, though, that their season, a lot of defeats scattered through here, losing to Chelsea, losing to Monaco, Inter as well, and to Barcelona as well. Spurs defeated them. But then big wins against City, PSG, Juventus, Bayern Munich in there, Real Madrid in there. Chelsea got beaten as well, and then they drew with Barcelona once more. There are just so many matches here, but they've done so well to win their very first European Super League. Now, if we have a look at the history, or the transfers, of the Europe Super League, then you can see that last season, the big signings: Kingsley Coman to Real Madrid, Uri moving to Bayern Munich, Jordan Henderson moved to Barcelona for £56 million, Aspas to United, another big transfers. Grimaldo's a good signing there. Wanyama moved to Jiangsu in China, so the Chinese league still operational. but mostly just moves between the teams in the European Super League and not too many major transfers. But so far this season, we can already see a £160 million transfer pre-existing for Kylian Mbappe, but then Willian has gone to United for £73 million. Naby Keita's transfer has gone through, as is Douglas Costa's. Brahimi's now at Monaco. Dolberg's gone to Dortmund. Rafinha in there as well. So interesting there in that. If we look at the player overview for the European Super League, it's not tracking stats. That's so disappointing. No, it's because I'm in the next season, that's why. So we can't actually see the stats for the previous season, unless somebody can let me know how you can find that out retroactively. Maybe in the records section. Oh, there we go. Most times winner, Manchester United. Most points in the season, United there as well. This is basically just an overview of the league season that we just saw. Biggest win was 5-0 for Leipzig against Nice. Highest scoring game, a 3-3 draw. Most goals in the season, Cristiano Ronaldo took Golden Boot with 30 goals. Gamiro got a hat-trick, most goals in a match. 20 assists for Nemanja Matic is quite impressive. And De Gea getting a clean sheet record as well. Ronaldo with the most players of the match. And then Buffon, the oldest player, fastest goal. Olivier Giroud, 9 seconds. And then a 14-year-old played for Atletico Madrid, which seems highly unusual and illegal. But I suppose a lot of the rules might not have been set up for this. 12 wins for Man City is quite impressive. And 30 goals for Ronaldo. I don't think there's too much else we want to see. Lionel Messi got the highest average rating though, but Ronaldo got the most man of the matches. So if we try and have a look at maybe the Golden Ball, that might be an interesting place to look at. And you can see Ronaldo won it in 2017, and it wasn't given in it was given. Ronaldo won it in 2018, I assume here. This is what this is showing. For the year 2018, Ronaldo with the win, ahead of Suarez and ahead of Lionel Messi, who had the higher average rating, but Ronaldo taking the World Golden Ball. Now let's have a look at that Champions League. I know this is a long video, but I think it's worth doing it in detail in the first season. So the Europe Champions League is the highest rated cup competition. There is a Europa Cup as well, actually. So let's start with this one. I'm not interested, not sure how the qualification for this actually works, but if we drop back to this first season, you can see there's a group stage, a semi-final and a grand final, all this qualifying as well. But if we just take a look at the semi-final, you can see it was Leeds and Sandhausen that made it through to the grand final, where it was won by Leeds. I mean, it must have been a massive group stage. No, there's only 4 groups there. Playoffs pretty big. There are a lot of teams with the opportunity to qualify, but very much the second tier competition. If we look at the Champions League and its stages, going back to last season, you can see a lot of teams given the opportunity to qualify here. The most open European competition I've ever seen, I think. And they are all the best teams as well, which is nice. If we just jump through to the playoffs here, you can see Real Madrid had to come through, beat Newcastle just about 3-2. Barcelona took out Valencia. Porto going through. United had to go through the playoffs as well. Liverpool beat Levante. Juventus relying on penalties, but PSG, Chelsea, Arsenal, Madrid and AC Milan all making it through to the group stage, where only one team qualified from each group. So Arsenal beat the other teams in their group to win their group ahead of Real Madrid and Porto. Chelsea through, United through and Barcelona through. So 3 English teams making it to the next round. Juventus unlucky to miss out there. If we can go to the semi-finals, you can see Arsenal and Chelsea managed to get through. Barcelona and Man United get knocked out. And in the final, it was a 2-0 win for Chelsea at Wembley. So Chelsea, I suppose you could say champions of Europe, but that wouldn't be entirely accurate because Man United won the league and Chelsea finished down in 7th. So Chelsea and United, the big winners there in this very first season. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed this experiment and you are finding it interesting, because I certainly am. I will progress through the leagues a lot more quickly next time to try and cut down the length of the video. I think next time we'll probably go a couple of years ahead because we'll still want to see some of the detail of it. And then in the future we'll just go faster and faster to see how the league rebalances, which teams end up where, and which teams dominate in this league. So do drop a like on the video if you enjoyed this experiment. Make sure to let me know if you've got ideas for experiments or if there's anything you want to see in the next part using the comment section, and make sure to subscribe so you see the next part in 2 days' time. You can also join my Discord and follow me on Twitter using the links in the description. But until next time, see ya!